On Wisdom and Hustle, I have the pleasure of talking to Felicia Bittle, founder of FAB Styles. She's a preeminent award-winning personal stylist and consultant located in Charlotte, North Carolina. She's a consultant elevating women's style and image. She's known for her unique approach to fashion with an edge. She has a knack for helping you push through your wardrobe comfort zone or your discomfort zone, however you want to look at it, and pull out the diva that's been screaming to get out and help you feel amazing. So on this sit down, I'm talking to her about her journey towards becoming a fashionista, her pivot towards business ownership, advice for business owners, and really having the faith to take the lead. Welcome, Felicia.
Thank you so much. That was great. It's always kind of surreal to hear somebody talking about you. I was just like, yeah, that is me.
Exactly. Exactly. And so a lot of times, like, you don't see yourself as other people see you, right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's crazy because I don't know. I think sometimes we can be our biggest cheerleader or we could be our worst enemy sometimes in what we're thinking in our thoughts. And so even like hearing you speak about me and what I do, I'm like, yeah, that is what I do. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, you do? You do all that? I do. And I'm receiving it. So yes.
Exactly. And you're like, wait a minute, am I really like a fashionista? Like, how did I get there, right?
Yeah.
So yes, you are. I've been following you for probably a couple of years now. Like even before I met you, like I told you that when I saw you with some of our good friends, I was like, wait a minute, that's my namesake. It's like, what's she doing? What's she doing out here in these streets?
Oh God, this is going to be great. I'm excited.
So Felicia, I just love your story about how you got to where you are and like how like you went to school to be an accountant. Now you are a full-time fashion stylist. And I have been seeing you. When I say I've been seeing you in these streets, I have been seeing you in these streets. And
the hustle is hard. The hustle is hard.
Here. And are these streets friendly? That's the other thing.
The streets are real. I think with any business minded person, entrepreneur, how you feel, you don't take things personal. It's business. I heard Marlon Wayans on a podcast saying, and this was the best advice I heard. He said, you can be nice with your friends. You can be nice with your family, but you can't be nice in business. It's about what you're trying to do in business is be fair, be equitable, do what's legal. Those are things you're doing in business. But as far as like taking things personal or worried about whether folks like you and all this stuff, that's not what business is. What do I need to do to make my revenue? How do I get my brand and my name out there and not take it personal? That's what I'm learning. That's what I'm learning the most about. So when you ask, are they nice? I try to get out of my head whether they're nice or mean. I'm just like, it's business.
It is what it is, right?
That's right. Especially if you've been raised in a lot of us, especially as African-American women, a lot of us are raised to be people pleasers. And running a business, you can't worry about people pleasing. You'll be stuck or you'll go home crying every night. What is the business model I have and how do I implement that?
Wow.
Yeah.
So, girl, when we talked a while ago,
was it a while? It was like,
it was a while enough is what I will say. It was a while enough. I love how you got here. So like, we went to the greatest HBCU on the planet.
In the universe.
So we've cleared that air for anybody who's listening. The greatest HBCU on the planet.
Fight me. Yes, it is.
Okay. You went for accounting.
I attended for accounting, full scholarship, and I was great at accounting. I'm always giggling about how growing up, we're more or less taught to specialize in what we're good at doing, right? So if you're great at math, think about doing something with math. If you're great with your hands, think about something around that, a career around that. But I don't remember at any time someone saying to me, what are you passionate about? What do you really want? If you could choose your dream job, what would that be? It was always about what are you good at? What can you make money at? What could you be doing to actually retire? So what gets us in trouble a lot of times is that when we're in our work in the real world and we're working these professions, there's this inner part of us that's like, well, do you like it? And how do you feel about it? And while I went to school for accounting, and I don't take anything away from accounting, accounting is what helps me run my business. Accounting is what has me saying, looking at my business model, saying what can generate revenue, why it can generate revenue. I can read financial statements. I know how to do my taxes if I need to do that. So I would never take that away. But it wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life as a career choice. And the hardest part around that is when you're raised and you're taught to deliberately decide, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna get a scholarship, I'm gonna major in this, and then I'm gonna work in this particular career for the rest of my life. In between there, I'll go get a master's, I'm gonna grow up the corporate ladder, I'm gonna eventually become a CEO. You have this prescription of what your life is supposed to be. And when it's not going according to that path, you're kind of out here like, well, no, it, what is it? I'm supposed to like it too. Why don't I like it? Why don't I enjoy it? And you're lost for a little bit because you're trying to identify. And for me, I did not realize what I wanted to do until actually I went to a seminar. I went to a seminar where I was listening to, her name is Millette Granville. I know she's like, if she says my name one more time, but I got to give her the props.
Gotta give her props.
Because she like put it in my spirit about we have talents and we have gifts, right? Talents are the things we're pretty much taught how to do. You can become talented playing the piano. You're taught to do that. But our gifts are those innate things that we're doing naturally that come at ease, that we don't have to be taught. And we're great at. We enjoy it. And it had me looking at myself saying, what are you great at? What do you enjoy doing? And that's when I started coming to the conclusions around fashion. And I knew I didn't want to design, but I love visually styling. I love visually seeing people in different colors and textures and looks and seeing how it all comes together. I love taking the pieces and making the puzzle. I love it. And so I kind of just look back on my history and what I've always done. And I was always that girl in the crew that had all the clothes to help my girls look good when they went out. And they were calling me about where to get this and what goes great with that. And I looked at that. But the other challenge with that was I did not know what that was called. I didn't know what that was. I didn't grow up with stylists. I didn't go to department stores and have people help me behind the scenes putting together looks. So to a certain degree, I knew what I enjoyed, but I didn't know what that was or if that was anything. And I happened to be watching a award ceremony, and the celebrity, they were complimenting her on her look, and she said, no, I got to bring my stylist out. She's the one that put this all together. And when she did that, a light bulb went off. Like, oh, so that's what it's called, a stylist. And from there, I went down this rabbit hole of what is a stylist? How do you become one? Who are the famous stylists? And if you kind of think about it, in the last maybe 8 to 10 years, stylists are becoming rock stars right along with the celebrities. They're known people. One of my favorites, and still is June Ambrose. If she ever sees this, June Ambrose, I've admired you ever since I was a young teenager. And, Rachel Zoe and all these, Misa Hilton, like all these great women stylists. And so from there, I knew what to call it. I didn't know the name for it. And I just went from there trying to figure out, do I need certifications? How do I get my name out there? How do I become trusted? I'm building a business doing what I love. That's kind of how it all started.
So I'm curious, Felicia. So you grow up, you say you're from the South.
Mhm.
Um, you go to school, you're on your, you're on this trajectory to move up the career corporate ladder. And, I come from an African American family that, you work 30 years,
At the
then
same company.
you go find that passion somewhere else. Like you do that in retirement.
That's
What
right.
did your family say about this?
Oh my God, that's a great question. Because let's be clear about what entrepreneurs were considered. Those that wasn't necessarily a positive term. Those were the people that couldn't get jobs in corporate.
Exactly.
So it wasn't like, in my mind, I never wanted to be that because it was never spoken of in a positive way. Um, what did my family say? I didn't necessarily tell my family when I was starting to do it. I kind of sprinkled a little bit here and there, dipping my big toe in. What made them comfortable with it was seeing me being noticed for doing what I was doing. So when I when I had my TV segments or when I was featured in the newspaper, magazines, I think that made them comfortable with, oh, this is what you do, and people out here respect it. So that way, when I transitioned into becoming a full-time entrepreneur, it wasn't that much of a shock. But did my mother ask me questions like, so
What is this?
how do you get paid? And
Right.
then the biggest question was, I mean, what about your retirement and
Yeah.
what insurance and all these other things that they're so used to having? Like, so what if it don't work out? What are you going to do? You're going to leave this great job over here that's making all this money to pay for this house and this car, and you're going to start from scratch. And what if it don't make money? And it's just like, and I know my people worry and love me, but I would give this as advice to anybody out there that someone comes to them saying they want to start their business. Just be careful of the thoughts you put into people's heads, right? Because then next thing I know, I'm over here worrying about the job. I'm over here just worried about things. And I had to kind of say to myself, she's coming with love. She's just worried. And sometimes people only know what they know. And my job with her was to kind of just say, it's going to be okay, Mom. I got this. Because I do have it. At the end of the day, I can make a living for myself. I just want to be happy making a living for myself.
Yeah.
And I think as long as I don't react or I don't get stressed, I think they're okay on the side. Has she ever called me an entrepreneur? Mm-mm. I don't think that slid out her. I don't think that slid out her between her lips yet. Like, my daughter's an entrepreneur. She's just like, yeah, my daughter's on TV. She's
right.
this and this, but not the entrepreneur. Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Felicia, I think about, I was reading an article one day and they were interviewing parents about what their kids do. And they said, I don't know what this title is. I don't know what it means, but they work every day and they work every day. That's, like, because, they come from that era where it's these very there are these titles
Yeah.
that people identify with. And so now, people are making their own titles and making careers out of those things. And I think that our parents' generation really doesn't understand. And I think a little bit of it too is it kind of stopped trying to understand, because as long as you're self-sufficient, you're healthy, you're doing well, they're like, it's working.
The rest of it is really none of my business.
Exactly.
Nor do I really want to get into it, because every week when we talk, my mother's like, so you're okay? How are you? You're getting your bills paid? You got insurance? Like, she'll still ask me that, and I receive that. Like, yes, Mom.
That's a parent's love.
Now, is that bank account as big as it was when I was working for Duke Energy or Wells Fargo? No, but it'll get there.
But you're living your passion.
You're living your passion. And sometimes when you step away from things, you don't always need all these things that you thought you needed to pay for. I'm just like, when I said that, here's what happened. When COVID hit and you actually could sit there without running around and buying all these things, the Starbucks or the lunches and the dinners and all these kind of extravagant things, You're like, I really can live right here off of this right here. I don't necessarily need all these other bells and whistles that you were kind of doing just because you could. When you really need to focus your budget on what you need to survive and maybe save or invest, you're like, good Lord, how much money was I spending on all this other stuff?
Now you can actually see it, right?
You can see it and you receive it and you're comfortable. You actually think about money differently as an entrepreneur. Anytime I spend money, I'm thinking about, do you need it or do you want it? How is this going to grow your business? How is this going to impact your livelihood? Right? And you start making different decisions. I don't need another pair of shoes. These are the shoes right here you've only worn once or twice. Figure it out with these shoes that you have. I just think about money differently
I
now.
love that. I love that. And so COVID was really kind of that pivotal moment for you.
It
You
was.
decided this is the chance. And Felicia, so many other women of color did that. They started to lean into what they really wanted to do. Like now I have this opportunity to really lean into what drives me. And whether that was forced or whether that was by choice.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so you took that leap, you leaned in.
I leaned in and I prayed and I meditated. Like for me, in my livelihood, I have to pray and I have to meditate because that calms the voices in my head that's telling me you can't do this. Or the voices in my head that are saying, what about this, 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 this? And you get overwhelmed and it's anxiety build. But COVID and the pandemic forced me to sit in my feelings, sit in my needs and my wants, and where do I see myself? And like you said, I think it impacted so many other African American women because I have the conversation with a lot of folks where people lost their businesses in the pandemic. Mine actually grew. And I think it grew because people are like, I want different for myself. I want better for myself. I want to change my image. I'm tired of feeling like I have to wear a suit every day for this job I don't want to be at. You know what? I'm letting go of the job. I'm letting go of the suits. Who am I? And how do I want to feel in the way that I look? So I took that also as a blessing, as God telling me, see, people do desire to have you help them with their image and how they look. And it's actually a blessing to me because I get to see women smile about what I style them in. Or they'll say things like, I would have never thought to put myself in something like that. Where did you get that? Oh, I love the way this looks. So I took that as not only a sign, but it also gave me peace that at the end of the day, my business can't flourish. I can't make a name for myself doing this. But I don't know if I would have took that major leap where I said, I'm no longer just dipping my big toe in or three of my toes or two of my fingers. I'm going to take the leap. I'm going to create the website. I'm going to create the business plan. I'm going to do this. And this is sink or swim. This is what we're doing.
So you took that plunge.
I took the plunge. And so I let go of my job. I sat down and said, what do you realistically need? I did have a savings, but my savings was supposed to be for livelihood. So I had to get out there and hustle to make money to do the things I enjoy. And also to pay my bills. My savings wasn't supposed to be a crutch. It was only supposed to be used in extreme circumstances.
Gotcha.
So I still had to get up there and hustle. I got a mortgage due every month. I want to eat, I may not be able to do DoorDash every night, but I want to eat.
Exactly.
So let me hustle and make this money. And I like nice things, Fee.
Hey, honey, you and the rest of us, and this is the thing though. You can do that. You can do that on a budget. You can do that, and you can do it as an entrepreneur on a budget. It's possible for those who think it can't be done. And so, Felicia, I have noticed since you took that plunge, doors have been opening. I mean, I'm like your mom. Like I'm seeing you everywhere. How beyond you're doing what you're supposed to be doing? How did those doors open? Like, how did these opportunities happen for you?
Um, I do believe God steps in, and I do believe what you speak comes to fruition. So I tell anybody, if what you want, you got to let me step back. You have to believe that you deserve what you want. Like you got to believe it.
So it's a mindset.
It's a mindset. Who's going to believe you if you're having difficulty speaking your business model or your pricing or your talents and your gifts with this? Because for a lot of us, we've been taught, don't brag on yourself, humble yourself. People will watch you and figure it out. No, ma'am, not in business. You have to sell yourself. I am my number one brand. So I tell people all the time, my personality, my spirit, and my smile are my calling cards. People remember me because I feel like I'm authentic and I'm genuine. And they feel, I think people real recognizes real, especially in Charlotte where the circles can get very tight. Um, but I believe one opportunity opened the door for another opportunity. And people always treat the people you work with for whatever they're doing for you kindly because you don't know who they know.
Yeah.
So I started off doing TV segments for a local television station. The producer of that show recommended me to one of her girlfriends. That kicked off other clients. She recommended me to the newspaper. That put me in Charlotte Observer. And once you're in one publication, sometimes it opens the door to all these other publications.
Yeah.
I'm learning also that you have to be comfortable in your skin. A lot of us, we do not enjoy social media. I get it. I get it. I don't necessarily enjoy my Southern accent or the way I sing the last words in my sentences. It is what it is, right? But I think you have to be comfortable stepping out of your comfort zones as well. And I am a firm believer that people want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
And if you, even like me and you, how you're saying to me, Felicia, I saw you before I knew you. And now you're doing, this is considered a podcast for you, right? Now you're doing this and you're like, Felicia, you reached out and you're like, Felicia, I would love to have you on the show. But you did that because you've met me and you've seen me. And I think a part of you has also resonated with my personality. And I just think all of that works in your favor. So a lot of it is also being comfortable, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, like me reaching out to the producer of a TV show, of a TV, local TV network and saying, I would love to be on your show. This is what I do. These are a couple of things I've done. And she called me and said, yeah, I would love to have you. And then that one turned into two, turned into three. I'm now on a different local network, but it opens the doors. And I think you just have to be a believer in what you do. I think you have to treat people accordingly, kindly. And I also think you have to speak it into existence. I no longer shy away from calling myself a personal stylist. Like a lot of times when people ask me what I did, I didn't give myself a title because I was like, oh my God, what are they going to ask me? What if I'm not?
What did you say? I'm curious.
Huh?
What did you say? I'm curious.
I was just like, well, I do this, 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 this. I was scared to tell people I was an entrepreneur because I didn't want them to look at me like I have no purpose. I'm just out here just
hustling every day.
Yes. And then I didn't want to use the title personal stylist because I wasn't sure if that sounded important enough. All these things you're taught, like, in business and corporate, we're known by our titles and our positions.
Yes. Yeah.
So for me, personal stylist just sounded like, I was like, I don't want that. Am I image architect? Am I all these other big time things? But once I became comfortable in my skin, I tell people all day I'm a personal stylist and this is what I do. And I'm proud of it. And I think you have to really get comfortable in that and quit worrying so much about how people are looking at you and seeing you. Know who you are. So.
I love it. I love it. So, Felicia, personal stylist is what people call themselves. So you have the right to do that. I was just watching a news segment about a former airline attendant who is now a personal stylist. And so it made me start to think like, you know what, this is not really a new phenomenon. Like people, it's not a new phenomenon because I think about like women, corporate women, you know, back in the day, they were using personal stylists because they were now in these new roles, they increased visibility, so they needed to kind of step up their game, so to speak.
Mhm.
And so with this market of other personal stylists, like how does Fab stand out above the rest?
Oh,
And
that's
what
a
is
great.
your approach to styling women?
So, that's a great question. I will say this about personal styling. I do believe social media has propelled the profession to where we can do that on our own in our own business. I think before a lot of the personal stylists that um, women in high ranking positions in corporate and at certain high levels, I think they were more or less going into the stores and working with stylists for like a Neiman's or a Saks.
Mhm.
Social media has allowed a lot of us to start these businesses and run these businesses as personal stylists. And people are seeing what we do and they're coming to us from all over the map. How do I stand out? How does my business stand out? I believe I know it stands out because I look at it as more than clothing. It's beyond clothing. It's beyond me just putting you into the latest designer or the high-end designer. I focus on transformation. I get to know you. We talk. I feel like I can become your counselor to a certain degree. What is it that you want people to feel when they see you? How do you want to look? How do you want to be credible? What is your goal with your image? And when you start having those conversations, you get into the deep conversation with folks about where they've been, how they've always seen themselves, their insecurities. And so
Mhm.
I think what helps me stand out with folks, I'm not just trying to put you in something to put you in something. I'm not just using you to be an ad for my business. I care about what this outfit makes you do. How is it elevating you? How does it empower you? How does it make you look unique? And I take the time to really get to know my clients, their lifestyles, their families, their goals. And I think that's some of the biggest positives about my business that sets me apart. I don't necessarily make money off of the clothing you buy. So sometimes when you go into the store and you work with these personal stylists, they have to make quotas, and
Mhm.
so they
Mhm.
may not necessarily be interested in you per se. They'll look at your form, they'll look at your shape, and what do we put you in? But I get to know you on a different level. We got goals. You have personal goals. So how do I help you reach those goals? Let's talk.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because when you think about goals, Felicia, I don't know that we always think about it from a fashion perspective. We always think about these life goals. I want to be here in the next 5 years, and I want to have achieved this in the next 5 to 10 years. You know, all of those kind of exterior things that really don't tap into who you are. And I think that styling is about tapping into who you are as a person and how do you want the world to see you outside of your title and what you do every day. And so I like that you are leaning into the person. And so, you know, in this year of 2025, there are just a lot of like these beauty standards. And so
Mm.
how do you use what you're doing with and women, and I guess women are your primary customer, to challenge some of these beauty standards and beliefs?
That's a great question. That's a great question. I feel as though my values and my principles are the foundation of everything I do as a stylist. I'm all about empowerment, authenticity, and I believe that everyone deserves to feel confident in their own skin. My approach to each client is empathy and what is it about you that makes you feel good? Magazines and articles and fashion, that's kind of the more or less the the icing on the cake, right?
Mhm.
But how does that resonate with you? I feel like I always tell my clients, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. I also tell them that beauty and style comes from within, and
Mhm.
you get to dictate that for yourself. So even whether Beyonce wears it, whether Rihanna wears it, whether Angela Bassett wears it, how does it make you feel to wear what you're wearing? What
Mhm.
is it that you want people to see when they look at you? And when you start asking more in-depth questions such as that, we're working to redefine what it is that makes you and the clothing you wear about you. Like even when I see you, I be like, that's Felicia Brown. Her look is her look. And
Right.
while it's a dope look, that's not necessarily Felicia Bittle's look, but
Right.
your look is, and when you talk to you and you hear your personality, you're like, yeah, her look matches her personality. I love it when people say that because that makes it unique to you. So the beauty standards and the magazines and what we see on TV and what's the hottest trend, those are just suggestions at the end of the day. How do you incorporate who you are into all of that to make sure the clothing aren't wearing you, but you're wearing the clothing,
I love
right?
that.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's really about like, what's your brand going to be?
What's it going to be? And
What's
no,
your brand, your own personal brand, and how do you want that personal brand to really kind of come before you, before it be when you come in the room. It's in the room before you get in the room because people know that about you.
absolutely. And you have to be comfortable. I find that people tend to be more comfortable with what they're wearing and their brand when it's coming from them and what they internally like to see themselves in versus me or anybody else trying to tell you what to wear. My job is your consultant. That's why I tell people I'm your consultant. At the end of the day, I work for you. So if you don't like certain colors, it's not for me to push those colors on you. What are
Right.
the colors you're liking? So how do we make that work for your skin tone, for your personality, for your eye shapes, your hair color? All the things we look at so that when you rock it, everybody's stopping and looking at you and like, I like what she's wearing. I
Yeah,
like the way she looks. That's my goal at the end of the day.
I love it. So, Felicia, I want to pivot a little bit to the operations of Fab Style. Okay, so
The business.
the business, because, like, I want people to know that it's possible, but it's a journey. It's possible, but it is a journey. And you have been percolating. This idea has been percolating for a while. You didn't just wake up and say, "Oh, quitting my job, starting Fab Styles. This is where we are." It's a process, like with your clients. It's a process to get to where they want to be. And so, from an operations perspective, once you really kind of decided, I'm going to be here now. This is my home. What were those things that challenged you?
So, okay. I would tell you my personal biggest challenge was self-doubt. I know I wasn't exactly sure I could do this. I wasn't
Mhm.
exactly sure I could run a business. I had to kind of get out of my head around, I guess, trying to make it a perfect scenario for me to do this. There are going to be lessons that I have to learn. There are things I'm going to have to like take L's on, but we're in it. And if you're in it, you're going to take the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that was kind of one of the biggest challenges. I actually kind of struggled with imposter syndrome a little bit. And that term is becoming big out here,
Yes, it is.
but I struggled with that, like questioning whether I was truly capable of building something successful and if people will really trust me with their style. I mean, the self-doubt can get amplified by a client liking what you do or not liking what you do. And am I really doing what I was made to do? So that
Mhm.
was one challenge. But the other challenge was actually learning how to run a business.
Exactly.
Think I mean, I took accounting and I took a couple of business courses, but do I know how to run a business?
Right, exactly.
Do I know how to look at
Exactly. Just
wait a
because you know how to make cakes does not mean you know how to run a bakery. I'm just saying.
minute. know 1 + 1 is equal to 2, but
Right.
why over here does it feel like it's equaling to 8? Like it's all these things. And so here's what I did. I learned to ask for help.
Okay.
I learned to look at other people in my line of work as not competitors, but mentors. So that for me, that meant reaching out to people that do what I do and were running successful businesses with them, saying, all right, so I don't know what to do. Like I know what
Now,
to do
was that in the same field or was that just business 101,
in the same
102?
field.
Okay. Okay.
I actually looked in the same field because I was trying to figure out, understand business models. What do I need to consider as a stylist of like what should I be charging my clients at their rates? How do I figure out rates?
Mm.
And I actually had a stylist kind of walk me through her business plan and what she did and the things I need to look at. That was the first thing I did because that helped me kind of tune my business model. The second thing I did, I brought in a business mentor, period. Someone to look at, all right, this is what I'm doing. This is what these packages mean. This is what these services are doing. And this is what I'm charging. And they went into it from a business perspective, deeper of, all right, so how many clients are you trying to have every month? And how long does it take you to work these services per client? And is this going to cover not just not just the service, but do you have internet you have to pay for? Don't you have a mortgage to pay for? Aren't you also doing social media? How much of your time is paid? Everything has a price and a cost to it. So
And
what
staff. Are
it's
you gonna need enough? Are you gonna need somebody to book your client? I mean, like,
all of that. Everything has a cost to it. And it didn't occur to me that I wasn't even considering. They were like, well, don't you talk on your phone? How much is your phone a month? Like all these other things I had moved out because I was just like, and let me also be honest, when I was charging my rates, I was thinking of it more of what is someone willing to pay for my service?
mm,
I wasn't thinking about how much I need to charge to support all the work that I do around this service.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I kind of had to get out of my head because what the personal stylist that I reached out to earlier told me, people will pay for great service. If people want to work with you, they're going to pay your fee. So leave all that behind.
Mm.
When she told me that, she was absolutely right. I think, girl, I look back on what I was charging in the beginning. I was like, how did I think I was going to make a livelihood out of it? And if you're not looking at those big picture things and actually drilling down on what it takes to make your business work from a cost perspective, the first time you don't make the money you want to make, you'll run back to that other life
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
weren't.
You'll be like, wait.
I'm not, I didn't do this
This
so
is
that
not sustainable.
but I realized it's not sustainable because I wasn't thinking of my business model correctly.
Mm.
So I tell people as well, you got to be willing to reach out to folks that are doing what you love and they seem to be doing well at it and ask them how did they get there. And you also have to give yourself permission. I don't want to call it fail, maybe permission to learn the lesson and give yourself grace that you may not come out the gate with all these clients and making all this money, but you can get there. And you got to ask yourself, why am I not there yet? What is it that I'm not necessarily doing correctly that could get me there? So for me, I had to diversify what I did. I can't just make money off of styling because
Mm.
that's someone hiring me, right? So that may mean I now write for a magazine. That's a different level of income, but it still allows me to do what I love, talk about fashion. I also do virtual things now where sometimes it's not about someone hiring me to style them. They just want me to consult with them on things they already have. What could look right with this? Where can they go to get these certain things? Is this right for my body shape? All these other things. You got to start thinking outside the box. So even though you may not necessarily be doing styling, touching someone, putting them in clothes, how can I still pivot what I love and make it to where I'm making money off of it too? So things that nature, like, so then you kind of have to think about that.
You think about it from a much broader perspective. In the industry, that you are living in, essentially.
And you got to be, here's the other thing you got to be willing to get comfortable with. Charging for your expertise, charging for your time. So for instance, I used to run around the city, going to clients, styling them in their homes. That's now still offered for my clients, but they now have to pay for that piece. I was kind of just
personal. Yeah.
That's personal. You got a car, you got gas, and it's also time. Or I actually built a studio inside my home where people can come and we can style you in my studio. And that's for free. But if you want to come to you and kind of deal with my time and my gas and my money and all these other things that go along with that, then that's a different fee. And I had to get comfortable charging for things.
Yeah.
Everything you do around your business has a cost. It does.
Is that one of those things they call it, like know your worth? You
have to know your worth, and you
hear that all the time.
I cannot tell you how many people I've walked away from because they didn't want to pay for my fee. And it's not, I don't look at anyone bad about it because you got a budget just like mine. But before, when people would say things like, "Ooh, you expensive," I would be like, well, maybe we can
work something out.
Let me get something else, or let me work something out. I'm negotiating. And then I had to stop doing that. Like, Felicia, if you do that, that actually shows that you have doubt in what you're charging and it actually puts doubt in folks when they're looking at you as the credibility to what you're charging. So I had to stop doing that. And I'm comfortable with saying, hey, I understand this may not be right for you, but for right now, but when you are ready, just holler at me.
I love it.
You have to be willing. But I will tell you, God has never closed one door and not opened another for me.
Hey.
So I have faith in that too. So that just makes, and sometimes you're being protected by not having to deal with some clients. Sometimes those are the clients that are going to try to nickel and dime you. Those may be some of your worst clients. I'm not worse, but more challenging clients. Usually the clients I work with that have done the work with me and we've had our consultations, they've looked at my website, because my website has all my prices. By the time we go through all that, they want to work with me and they're willing to accept my expertise and my suggestions, and we do well. So I usually take a lot of that stuff as blessings in disguise. And I work with those that want to work with me.
It's one of those things that you hear that all money is not good money. And I mean, that client might not be the client.
It might not be the client. And I'm learning to also, I don't know, when do we get out of listening to our gut and using our discernment? You remember when we were little girls and teenagers, like we would be like, no. And somehow along the way, we started doubting ourselves, like maybe I'm being too hard. Maybe I'm too aggressive. Maybe I'm being too strict. And I think that's the world and some of the things it perpetuates on us as African-American women.
Yeah.
I'm not being flexible enough. But I'm learning to listen to my gut now. I don't even necessarily have to have proof about people when I meet them. Something in me says this is not the person you necessarily want as a client. And I'm comfortable in that now. And I let it be there.
I think about this fear thing, Felicia. Like, remember when we were younger, we were so fearless. Like,
who cares?
Who cares? Then when you get older, you're like, well, I'm not so sure about that. Maybe served me well. It's all these barriers and these limitations.
But do you think that's cultural, or do you think it's gender? I can't tell if it's both. Maybe it's both.
I don't know. I just know that I question sometimes when I have this fear, and I have to say to myself, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it wouldn't have been a question. You would have done it afraid.
And whatever came from it, it is what it is. Now, I will tell you a piece of advice I've been given is you need to identify what that fear is. Because when you identify the fear, you can identify how to resolve it. So is your fear of not doing this, you're scared you're not going to make the right amount of money? Your fear that you're not as good as you think you are? Like, what exactly is the fear that's...
Yeah.
You have to always stop and ask yourself that. That's not just in business, that's in relationships, that's in intimate relationship, partnerships. What is it that I'm afraid of and why?
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna start asking that question when I find myself leaning into that space of like, wait a minute, what? Can I really do this? You
And,
know?
and then you have to pump yourself back up. Yeah, I can do this. And you know what? We getting ready to do it. Let's go.
Exactly, exactly. So, like I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated because this fear thing that I just spoke about, like you pushed through, you were afraid, you learned. And so what have you been most proud of? And what is the thing you wish you knew when you started that you know now?
I will tell you what I am most proud of is that I actually took the leap into the business. Um, because when I tell you I have built a resilience to caring about what other people think. I used to be such a people pleaser.
Mm.
And I could still fall back into that, but when I tell you it was horrible, like I would go home upset if I felt like somebody didn't like what I did or how I did it. But it has built in me this resilience to say, you know what? It's okay. It's not about them liking you or not liking you. How do you feel about it? So that was a plus of doing my business. But what I'm proud of is that I did it. And I did it. I did it. I did it. You better help me get emotional. But I didn't. I had been so scared to start a business for so long because I did not want to fail. Failure for me is not an option. I was at one of the points where I won't do something because I don't want to fail at it. And I had to get comfortable with Felicia. Maybe it's not about failure. Maybe it's just about lessons learned. So I don't let people use the word failure around me. I'll be like, what is the lesson you learned from it? Because failure puts this negative connotation. Everything that we do, and it may not go according to plan, there's a reason it didn't go according to plan. So what is it that you learned from it so that you can get back on your path? So that's the one thing I am proud of because for so long I did not do it. I would put a big toe in, then I get scared and I come back out. I put another toe in, I get scared and come back out. So me doing it and it's flourished, right? Like it's done well.
It has.
It has, and I'm happy with it. I enjoy it. And then I meet people like you and people I may not would have met had I not done this. And forgive me, what was your second question?
Well, it's about what do you wish you knew? I mean,
Oh,
when you started.
I wish I knew that it did not have to be perfect. Some of us don't push the go button because we're trying to make the scenario perfect. Let me make sure I have this in my bank account. Let me make sure I have all these boxes checked. Let me make sure I got my business plan. Let me make sure I got whatever it is that's holding you back from feeling like it has to be this perfect picture. I wish I had known at that time that it did not have to be perfect. And especially for people like myself, or maybe even like you, that we don't just necessarily jump into things.
Yeah.
I think you can proactively plan, but I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect scenario. If for anybody out there that's thinking about starting a business, it's never going to be a perfect scenario. Some moments are better than others, but it's never going to be. And if you're looking for perfection, you're never going to start it start it because you're always using this as a crutch that I don't have this. I don't have
It's
this.
a bar that you're setting. Like I'll do it when I get this, or I'll
Or
do it when I.
or when the household is like this, or my kids are here, or I got this amount of savings here, or this retirement is here. It's never going to be a perfect scenario. And here's the thing about running a business. You can't control all the aspects of business. So even if you're doing everything perfect, I got my social media popping, I got this money in the account, I'm making this revenue. You can't control clients all the time that come to you. I have some months where I'm balling. And then the next month I'm like, now what happened?
It's like dry.
What happened? Don't nobody need a stylist? So you can't always control it, but you try to mitigate those moments. So when I stack in one month, when I make this money in one month, I stack a portion of it because I don't necessarily know what the second month is going to be. You run your budgets and you run your business accordingly. You give yourself grace to learn the lessons. What are the lessons I'm learning? How do I mitigate problems in the future? How do I do my best? And that's it. So
So
that's what I
I
know.
was going to ask you, Felicia, like advice. I think you've just given the advice for people who want to start. Like, I know a woman that used to work with me. She has a podcast called Just Start. And I mean, like you just said it, like you just got to do it, right? Like if you wait for perfection, it will never, it will never happen. And you'll learn all these lessons along the way while you are still building. I mean, because you'll be building and building and building because you're going to be learning and learning and learning along this trajectory.
I was listening to this entrepreneur. She's big time. I'm a millionaire. And she was saying, do you know how many times I was broke? Do you know how many? And she said, even with this, I'm probably going to be broke a couple of more times. Like, because I'm always trying new things and new businesses. And she was like, you got to be willing to take the risk. If you're not willing to take the risk, this isn't where you need to be. But if you're willing to take the risk and not necessarily fail, but take the risk in trying, those are the people that succeed. Half of the people that you see out in the world, this didn't happen overnight. These big time entrepreneurs,
Say that.
they will tell you, if you look at my history, I've been bankrupt. I have had to start over several times to get to where I am. And you got to be confident in what you're doing, that you're willing to take that risk with it. Everybody wants to be a superstar as soon as they step out the gate. And even now, when people come to me and they're talking about, oh, you look like, it seems like you're doing all this and and your business is flourishing. I said, you know, I've been in this for like 15 years. Like, this didn't happen overnight.
Exactly.
And eventually, and that's what someone always told me as well, there's going to be a moment where it takes off. Now, you don't know when that moment is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it will. But you got to stay consistent with it.
And be ready.
And be ready. Be ready.
Be ready.
You got to be ready. And that's what the lessons learned sometime that you're going through is so that when it happens, you are ready. You're not starting from scratch with what to do with that big time client that you get. You're not starting from scratch when someone says, would you write a byline for my magazine because I need a fashion expert? You're ready.
You're ready.
That's what that's what I'm learning and still learning now in what I do.
So, Felicia, this has been amazing.
Good.
I cannot say how amazing this conversation has been. So, what's next for FAB Styles? And how can people find you?
How can people? Okay. First, what's next for me? I want to be nationally known. So for me, I tell people that's me stepping out of my comfort zones, doing things outside of just styling. So recently I agreed to host a red carpet event for the Gray. The Grays have a big annual fundraising event around the holidays. So the Gray Gala, the Gray Ball, they asked me to be a host for the red carpet. And that's me stepping out of my comfort zone because that forces me to talk to folks. I have to like ask questions and be on point. There's a camera here. It's not scripted. It's something I have to literally be in the moment doing. That's what I'm learning now. That's what I'm doing. And so eventually, even in March of this year, I will be the fashion commentator for a big event in Durham. Yeah, almost like 800 to 1,000 people. And I'm going to have to be in that moment. I have to put myself out there so that people are willing to bring me into their worlds to be like, all right, let's invite her to come speak on our TV segments. Let's invite her for an interview in these magazines because we've seen the way she speaks and the way she interacts and engages in her personality. Energy. My energy is everything. I've recognized my energy. So that's kind of where I am now. I want to be nationally known and I want people to really get an idea of who I am. Doing more on social media around getting to know me as a person. So those are kind of the next steps, my goals for this year.
So do I hear Fab Media? Like,
listen, I'm trying to do it all.
Do I hear that maybe? Okay.
You do? And
I'll be circling back with you when that launches.
Please do. I eventually wanted to write a book. So all of this, I eventually want to do a 501c3. Those are some of the goals that are on my plate with my business. And how people can find me. I am on Instagram at FABStylesNC. For those that still use Facebook, I'm there at Felicia Bittle, LinkedIn, Felicia Bittle. You can find me there. I am on TikTok, so you can find me there as well. But that's kind of how you find me.
Right.
And well, here's what I've also learned about my business. Word of mouth is a powerful tool. So make sure you treat people how you should treat them. Even with your challenging customers, clients, always be cordial, always be nice, always be professional. And that's how your name gets out there as well.
So, Felicia, I ask everyone this before we close. What are your word or words of wisdom for starting or staying in the hustle?
You have to give yourself grace. That's what keeps me stable in this. Telling myself I tell myself, Felicia, give yourself grace. Giving myself grace says it may not have gone the way you wanted to have gone, but you're still here. What did you learn and how do we proceed? Giving myself grace tells me you're not meant to be perfect. It's okay to not necessarily get it right the first time. So how do we improve upon that? Giving myself grace says it's okay if I want to take a down day and not downtime for myself and not do anything but be in my robe on that couch eating ice cream, giving myself grace that I need a self-care day. That is the advice I would give you. Give yourself grace and quit comparing yourself to others. Giving yourself grace also pulls you back when you are looking at other people on social media and all these forums and they seem to be just doing everything. Give yourself grace that you're going to get there. You'll get on social media tomorrow. You'll push out some content on day 2 of this week. Give yourself grace.
Because your journey is not their journey.
It's not their journey. And their journey isn't your journey. Even though y'all may both be calling yourselves the same title, they're handling it completely different than you. And what works for them, and what works for you will work for you. You have to give yourself grace to believe that.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for joining us. I invite you to listen to other episodes of how seasoned founders are leaning into their wisdom and staying in the hustle. Thank you, Felicia.
Thank you.